Welcome to A Cast for Crows, the Game of Thrones focused podcast here on Dead Screen. Nailed it. This is the second part of our Season 5 sort of recap episode that we were doing. And I guess we're going to have some Season 6 predictions today. So we have a list of questions here. Do we just want to go in order? I think we'll go in order. So the first question was, how much do we think that Sansa really progressed as a character this season? And I didn't think about this till I just read this. I think this is a great question, but I'll let somebody else answer first.
Well, I want to go. The reason I brought this up is because, for the first few episodes, they really seemed to build her up in her dealings with Littlefinger, and she was getting into some very deep plotting, pretending to, be on the side of the Boltons, planning to marry Ramsay and all that. And then it felt like they tore her down completely, obviously with the rape scene. And then all of a sudden Littlefinger went off to King's Landing, and we ended up not seeing him again. He didn't even appear in the final episode. So, I don't know how much she really progressed, because we talked earlier this season about her, really growing up and kind of standing up for herself and becoming powerful, but I feel like the rape scene just kind of took her back a few steps. So what did you guys think?
I kind of felt that she kind of fell victim to the Sand Snakes thing, where there was all this pre-season sort of hype around it. I remember there was a bunch of talk about, her character's really going to progress this season, and, everybody's like, okay, good, because she's kind of been nothing so far. And so it was sort of a little bit of build-up, not on the level as sort of the Sand Snakes thing, but it was just this build-up, and I felt like it, the first couple episodes, I think you're right, you really got to see it, and then it sort of backtracked a lot of the way. And then she jumped off the castle and floated away, or died. Who knows?
I partially disagree with that, mostly because I feel like I'm not saying she's a whole new person, but I think there is a newfound strength in Sansa, where I think if this had happened to her, say, the first season or something like this, she would have just given up, broken down completely, where I feel like she hasn't given up completely, and she didn't just, she did just sit in her room and cry, but, I also think that she, not necessarily, I don't think she's, at the point where she's ready to, kill Ramsay or anything like that. But I do think that she is stronger than what we've seen her in the past. I don't think...
Yeah.
Because, she did kind of break down a little bit, but she also was like, I'm not giving up here either, and she escaped, which took a lot of strength to begin with. So I think that she's progressed a little. I don't want to say that she hasn't progressed at all.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. If it came across like I think she did progress. And I remember there was a scene where I think the one girl was washing her, and she sort of stood up to her and was like, don't mess with me, homie. That was a good scene for her. And I just think it was we got it in the first, 4 episodes maybe, and then we didn't see much of it for the rest of the season. I don't know. I felt like there was a big build-up, and it's not what I expected from sort of the quote-unquote hype that was going on pre-season.
I think it was overly hyped. I agree with that, but I also don't want to say that she didn't progress, because I do think she progressed. And honestly, if this had happened, if she had been raped the first season, I don't think she would have made it, to be perfectly honest. I think she would have just killed herself.
Yeah, I agree.
So I do think there's progression. I just don't think it's what we expected. But to say that she didn't progress, I think, is completely wrong.
It's just taking so long. It's been 5 full seasons now, and I feel like she's not...
She's just now having a little bit of a little bit of purpose and personality sort of thing.
Yeah, no, it did take a while. Honestly, we don't even start to see a glimmer of it until the 9th episode of season 4, one where she comes out in the black dress and she's just kind of gonna wreck shit. But honestly, that's the first time we really see the strength in her, and I think it's just, we can't expect a complete 180 from her being kind of weak to super powerful and strong, and I think that's just what people expected.
Yeah, I feel you. Sort of jumping to this next question, and I'm not going to be much help because I'm telling you right now, I'm not going to have an answer to this one. Uh, so the question is basically stating, did Stannis sacrifice Shireen because he felt it was sort of what he needed to do and it was for the good of the realm, or did he sort of become too consumed with the idea that the Iron Throne sort of belonged to him? And I don't have an answer. I don't know. I think we talked about this on the last episode. I feel sort of lost on his character a little bit now because as we just briefly touched on it, they spent most of the season sort of building him one way, and then they like shot him the other way with that decision, and it's like I just don't know anymore. I have no idea.
I think that for a while it's kind of seemed like he's not necessarily doing anything for the good of the realm, but he just feels like the position does belong to him because he is the rightful heir. I don't think he is thinking on the grand scheme of things like, is this what's good for the realm? I think he was just thinking, this is how I'm going to get into power. It's what I've been trying to do. I don't really see it as him being selfless, necessarily.
I think it's a little bit of both. I do think there were points where he certainly believed he was acting for the good of the realm because he believed he was the best leader for the Iron Throne. Yeah. And it's also worth remembering that he and Davos struck a deal with the Iron Bank to work out all the debt that Robert had built up during his reign, which Cersei had constantly been ignoring. She basically told him, go screw yourselves, we'll pay you when we have the money. Mm-hmm. But Stannis made a point of working out a deal with them. And so I think we should at least remember that, although I have to remember that show Stannis is different from book Stannis, and in the end, the show made him look like a psycho pretty much.
Mm-hmm. Kind of power hungry.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know, though. I do think he became absolutely consumed with the idea that the Iron Throne did belong to him. And, in a lot of ways it did, especially if you supported Robert Baratheon's claim. So
I think it just gave him a sense of purpose. Honestly.
Yeah, exactly. He's never social with anyone. He's not friendly to anyone. His life was basically just he was a good warrior especially alongside Robert, and then he owned Dragonstone because Robert gave it to him. So he didn't have much purpose in his life until Robert suddenly died, and then even Ned Stark supported his claim to the throne. So by rights, in a lot of ways, unless you support the Targaryens, it did belong to Stannis. And so, but I think Melisandre, her influence was fatal for him in the end, and he became too consumed by what was possible, what should have happened, and, of course, in the end, what didn't happen. So, I don't know. I think, as far as sacrificing Shireen, I mean, that was obviously... Even you couldn't even see Cersei or Roose Bolton going that far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just frustrating to see the way the show handled Stannis in the end. But
yeah. No, I agree.
Because hearing from what sort of how you've talked about him in the books, the comparison between show Stannis and book Stannis seems pretty big. And that we were just sort of getting that sort of idea of book Stannis while watching the show, sort of a more level-headed, more sort of human character. Yeah. And then they just sort of, tossed it at the end there. So.
And I know for sure, like, there's every chance that Shireen will be sacrificed in the next book. I don't know because she's still alive there, but. If it happens, there's every reason to believe it'll be done without Stannis' knowledge or consent. Mm-hmm. Because it's not in his character at all to even be remotely convinced there. Mm-hmm. But as for the show, I just think Melisandre was the kind of, even meeting Melisandre was almost the beginning of the end for him. I would say looking at it in the long run. But yeah, it was just a shame to see a very good character kind of get destroyed by the showrunners. Like if he had to die, so be it. But I was just disappointed in what they did to the character, what they did to the man.
So, since Stannis is gone, and it's okay. Before I have the next question, who do you support, Joe? Whose claim to the throne do you support?
Are we talking specifically show?
Sure.
Oh boy.
It changes for you between show and book?
There's never been a clear-cut answer, obviously, because that speaks to the depth of all these characters. But for me, my number one choice has always been Daenerys, despite, obviously she went off the rails in the 5th book. You guys got to see that play out this season, but she still has my support there.
Yeah, I've always liked Daenerys. My thing is, I think we saw a lot in the season that I don't think she's ready for it just yet. I think she still has some learning to do. But I've always liked Daenerys the most.
I would have probably said Daenerys, but all up until episode 10 this season, I was on board with Stannis, I think. I think I was Team Stannis for most of the season until the very, very end. But so now I don't know who I'm gonna cheer for. With that said, who in the show that is still alive has the sort of attributes necessary to sort of rule over Westeros, and who do you think will eventually get there?
Alexa?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of anyone, to be honest.
That's the beauty of the question, though, is because there really is not one character who has all the attributes that are probably necessary to rule over all 7 kingdoms together.
Okay, so maybe to sort of throw a spin on this question, not who has, who's the best person for it, but who do you think's gonna get it? Who do you think, in the end, is gonna be on the Iron Throne?
My answer changes from one day to the next. Honestly, some days I see Sansa getting married to someone and then being their queen. I can't say who that is, but other days I see Jon Snow. We won't go into the whole dead alive thing because we've already done that. But sometimes I see Jon. Sometimes I've pictured Jon and Daenerys getting married, even because it is called the Song of Ice and Fire. So, but as far as who will be on it at the end, I don't. Let's just say this: I can be about 90% confident it won't be Cersei or Marjorie, who are over there right now.
Mm-hmm.
Hodor, maybe.
Yeah, he'd be good.
That'd be great. I don't know. Do you think Tyrion would be a bad option?
Yeah, and that was sort of what I was thinking. And then I would not be surprised if, could Littlefinger end up there?
I was thinking about it. I don't know.
I think Littlefinger will be murdered in the end.
That's possible. That's true. He has a lot of enemies.
I think he's one of the more clear-cut bad guys, at least definitely in the show.
I agree.
So,
yeah.
The question is, when is Sansa going to see that?
Mm-hmm.
But as far as Tyrion, I think he has a lot of the attributes, I think, to be a very good leader, and he would know to surround himself with the right people. But he has absolutely no claim to the throne by Westeros law. So it's hard to see. Would a lot of people support him being a dwarf, a
Yeah.
lot of people do call him half man and insult him and whatnot. So I think he will have. I do think he'll be alive at the end of the series. I think he'll end with an extremely important role. But as far as actually ruler over Westeros, I think that's too much of a stretch for
Mhm.
me. Although I would like that. That'd be great.
Mhm.
But what do you think, Alexa?
Um, I don't know. I do see him being like a dwarf being a problem. I feel like people would undermine him for that. But I think he could be a good leader. I mean, he has a good sense of justice and what's right and what's wrong. He's the most intelligent of the Lannisters. Um, but yeah, I could see where people would be hesitant with him being the king. So I don't know. He might, he might, as you said, just end up with a high-powered position, but not necessarily on the Iron Throne.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm gonna jump a question because and I'm not gonna have an answer for this one again, but I just want to know because I like this character. So the question you have on here is how will Davos's role change in the show now that Stannis is gone? Um, and I don't know, and I just want to know what you think. I just want to hear.
I
I'll
mean,
be a listener.
his entire purpose of the show has been to serve Stannis, and it was about how Stannis changed him from being a smuggler into a good man. And so I think it's important to remember that was why Stannis sent Davos away, was because so he wouldn't have to see or
Mhm.
have the memory of what happened to Shireen.
Mhm.
But as far as how his role will change, I oh I know something else he does in the books that hasn't happened yet, and I have reason to believe that will happen next season. But um, this thing that he did was for Stannis. It was to support Stannis' claim. So I
Yeah, it's like
I
his
have no
central.
idea.
It's like his central purpose, at least in the show, in the sense that we've known him, is just gone. You know, it was
Yeah.
both to serve Stannis, and then he very clearly had a connection with Shireen. So with both of those things gone, you know, who knows what his purpose or his next step is going to be, at least in the terms of the show. So do we? I mean, do we know if that actor is coming back, or is he just sort of gone?
There's been no news of him leaving, and obviously, in the finale, we saw him. He was back at the wall.
Hmm.
So
Oh yeah, I did forget that.
I don't see him. I certainly don't see him joining the Night's Watch or anything. But
Mhm.
maybe if what we believe is true, and Melisandre finds a way to
Yeah.
revive Jon, maybe
He
that's
just
where
sort of,
he'll go. Then
yeah.
he'll kind of form
Yeah.
a bond with Jon, because they kind of suggested that, if you'll remember a couple of scenes where where they were talking, and Davos really seemed to get through to Jon more
Hmm.
than most others.
Mhm.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
maybe something could happen there, but I really couldn't tell you with now that Stannis is dead.
Yeah.
I I don't see anything else happening. I don't see him like pledging his allegiance to anyone else, and I don't think he's just gonna go back to being a smuggler. So honestly, if he's with undead Jon Snow, like that's really the only thing I can see happening.
Boo. Um, so we've talked a lot throughout this season of podcasts about how Daenerys has sort of handled her situation in Meereen. Um, and so I feel like we've talked about that in length over the couple episodes. But there was a nice comment at the end of this where you asked, would she have been better off not conquering Meereen at all? Which I think is pretty thought provoking. Um, I've been trying to come up with a good answer to this since we've been doing this, and I don't have one because I'm not sure. It seems like it did a lot of bad for her, quote unquote, bad, but it's one of those things like she probably gained a lot of valuable experience from it. She probably learned a lot and grew up. She did learn a lot and she did grow up a lot through this whole situation. But all in all, it seemed to just be pretty bad as a whole for her. So it's sort of that those two things go hand in hand. Yeah, she grew and got a lot, sort of stronger and smarter and all that stuff, but a lot of bad stuff happened. So
Yeah, I don't really think she gained anything in particular from it, aside from experience, which she probably could have gotten somewhere else. So I don't, like, she really didn't gain anything from it. Everything went wrong for her there. So I don't know if Meereen was necessarily the best option for her, and I'm really glad that she's gone from there.
yeah, but where did she go?
Yeah, I mean, she's still. The Dothraki are presumably going to take her somewhere. I don't.
Yeah.
I think the show would just die an immediate death if you kill off Daenerys. So I don't think they'll.
No,
Well, I don't think the Dothraki will murder her, but the question is, where are they going to take her? What are they going to do with her? Because we know they like to rape, so I'm questioning whether we might be forced to deal with another rape scene next season, or, Drogon is still there. Tyrion's in charge of Meereen at the moment, so maybe he'll loose the other two dragons. Who knows? But as far as Daenerys, whether she should have conquered Meereen, she grew as a conqueror. She became a conqueror after conquering all 3 slave cities. But as a ruler, you can say she got experience, but it hasn't been good experience.
Yeah,
even
that bad experience, she learned that you can't
be an idiot.
Well, you can't make everybody happy, and something that works in one area might not work in another area, which sounds very simple, but sometimes it takes those very clear things to have happen, and you learn those things, and next time, if she's getting to the Iron Throne, she won't make those same mistakes.
But I also think she didn't need to go to Meereen to learn those things. She could have learned them somewhere else. So I don't necessarily think that.
She could have surrounded herself with a better council or something like that, and
Yeah, and she could have been taught better. I think if she had people. It's easy to say now, but if she'd had people like Tyrion and Varys, just think how much they probably will teach her now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They'll give her great counsel, I have no doubt. But I don't know. It's worth remembering that when she was on her way to Meereen, Illyrio wanted her to go back to Pentos so they could start making plans for Westeros there, but she decided to decline that offer, and she went ahead and conquered Meereen instead.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in a lot of ways she may have been better off because, it's important, I guess, to get the experience from Meereen, but Westeros is an entirely different culture.
Mm-hmm.
It's 100% different, and she has tried to incorporate a lot of what I would call idolist views that they're not catching on in Meereen at all. In fact, they've created they don't like her that much.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's one of Daenerys' problems. Is she's too idealistic, and because of that, she wants everyone to be happy, but it's just not how it's going to work. And I think that's something that I guess Meereen did teach her to an extent, but I think she still has some learning to do before she could even take the throne.
Mm-hmm.
But I think
and she still has to get control of the dragons.
Yeah, well, that too.
And she still has to get back.
That's going to take a long time. I feel like that's not happening right away. But
so sort of looking a little bit more into season 6, I'm gonna put you on the spot again, Joe, because I know if I try to recap it, I will mess it up. But you were sort of asking how Littlefinger's plans change sort of with the events in episodes 9 and 10, now that Stannis is dead and Cersei's on trial, how does his whole like view and in his plan sort of change from there? And so just to give a little recap on what he was trying to do and how those things messed up his plans.
Yeah, his original plan was it was brilliant in theory because he had convinced Cersei that he was still serving her in the Vale. And of course, when she called him to King's Landing, he went down there because otherwise she would have suspected something. And he made plans with the Boltons to obviously marry Sansa to Ramsay, and so that to the Boltons, that makes him seem loyal to the Boltons. And then he told Sansa that the whole thing that was all a ruse with both parties, and that he was actually going to support Stannis with the presumption that he would take Winterfell from the Boltons, and he could say to Stannis that, hey, look, I've got Sansa Stark, I've kept her safe, I've supported her claim to the north, and then Stannis would trust him and keep him alive. And of course, all that went awry when Cersei basically fucked up her entire rule with the High Sparrow, and now she's on trial for her life. And of course, Stannis lost the Battle of Winterfell, and now he has to presumably stay loyal to the Boltons. So that's where we're at right now. And as far as Season 6, I'm just going to throw a prediction out there. I still think we're going to get more conspiracy work with some Northern Lords who have been laying dormant for a while, so to speak. And I could see Sansa and Littlefinger conspiring with them. But at this point, that's just a complete guess, because I have no idea. But I want to know what you guys think, how you guys think Littlefinger, how his plans will change, because he's usually so brilliant at thinking like 3 steps ahead of everyone else. And now that he's kind of on the same playing field, what do you think he'll do?
So I'm going to start with my traditional I have no idea comment, because I don't. I never have any idea what Littlefinger is actually thinking. But it seemed, for whatever reason, I feel like he's going to kind of do whatever it takes not to have to go back to, or like, stay with the Boltons, or like, have to do anything meaningful with them. And, I don't know, does that involve the Wall and like the Night's Watch and the Wildlings? Can they somehow help him there, or whatever? But I just think the last place he wants to be is with the Boltons in Winterfell for like any meaningful amount of time.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree with you. I don't really see him just kind of like hanging out with the Boltons, because his whole plan was basically to kill them. So, unless he's like gonna go back and infiltrate shit there, like Joe said, it's the North. But I don't see him like kind of being like, so I've hated you guys this whole time, but let me help you out a little. So, yeah,
maybe
probably
just throwing out a theory. We saw him and Brienne go head-to-head early on last season. Maybe Sansa will... Let's not forget, Sansa and Theon are on the run at the moment. So I'm thinking...
Or are they dead in a pile at the bottom of the mountain? Or the bottom of the...
Oh, no. They landed just fine from that 150-foot drop. It's no worries.
Right to a tuck and roll.
But no, I think... It seems likely that they'll run into either Brienne or Littlefinger will return and he'll run into them. But I just wonder if maybe Littlefinger can sneak his way onto Brienne's good side because he really is that good, or he'll try to maybe.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't know. You can never really tell with Littlefinger.
Yeah. How much does he know of what's going on like in Meereen and with Daenerys and stuff?
He is not nearly as informed as Varys is. I'll just tell you that.
Okay. Well, I'm still I don't know.
Yeah, I don't see... I mean, Varys and Littlefinger despise each other. So even if Littlefinger ever attempted to get on Daenerys' good side, Varys would never let it happen, I don't think.
Okay.
That's where he gets killed.
So, the next question is sort of talking about who else is left in the north that can take down the Boltons. And for whatever reason, I feel like that has to be the Night's Watch and like whatever wildlings are left over there that have sort of joined up with them. Because, I mean, who else do we know that's in that region that we care about at all?
New characters.
Oh, okay.
Coming next season.
Okay, wait.
Okay.
So, okay, I do have a question. Okay, so is Howland Reed still alive? Jojen Reed's like dad or whatever.
Yes.
Okay, so if that's the case, is he in the north right now?
He's never actually been seen, so we don't know where he is, but
Okay.
we know he's around. That's all I can say.
I know he likes the Starks, so.
And he has very intimate knowledge of certain tournaments that were referred to this past season.
Yep. So.
But as far as
But
the
yeah.
Night's Watch theory, I mean, we have to note at this point that the Night's Watch is basically, they're all assholes at this point because they nearly killed Sam. I
have a
killed
question
Jon.
when you're done.
So I don't see them taking a side as far as possibly taking Winterfell or taking down the Boltons. And
Yeah.
remember, by law, they still can't get involved in the realms.
Yeah, they don't get
dispute,
political.
So yeah, I don't see that happening. Maybe the wildlings. That's a possibility for sure. But the Night's Watch, I wouldn't. I mean, someone's gonna have to restore them completely. And
Yeah.
I don't see that happening for a little while at least.
So
Maybe Undead John comes back and kills them all.
boo.
Yeah.
So through at least this season and parts of last season, anytime there was like a big Night's Watch scene, it seemed like it was, either evenly split between Jon and I guess the traditional Night's Watch sort of people, or even more heavily favored towards the people who supported Jon and like what he stood for. And so with him gone now, either what has already happened or what's going to happen to sort of those people that were mostly on Jon's side? Or did I just have the wrong impression that there was a lot of them?
I don't think there's many of them left because if you'll remember, most of his friends from the earlier seasons are all dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Obviously, Sam is gone now. So.
But I mean, not even like the main, quote unquote, like his friend character, like just sort of background. It seemed like it was split pretty
And
evenly.
Lord Commander, and you mean?
Yeah.
Ed is still there, we should remember. He went with Jon to Hardhome, the kind of long-haired guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the point is there's just not many left, and I think your
Okay.
best bet would probably be on Tormund and the wildlings who support him.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think there's too many left at the Night's Watch now. I really don't.
Okay. So we're just gonna
I
get
hope
some
they
new.
just kill all the assholes.
Yeah, we're just gonna get some
Yeah.
new characters that help us out.
That's my theory. If they still want to follow any book material, that will happen.
Do you think they're gonna follow any more book material?
As loosely as possible seems to be their theme now. So a little bit, yeah. I've heard of things that are still coming next season that have already happened. So I mean, they have to follow it a little bit,
Mhm.
but yeah. As far as Night's Watch, I think for show purposes, there's really no Jon supporters left. I mean, I suppose Davos and Melisandre, if you want to toss them in, maybe, but
Yeah, I just didn't know if most of them went with him to Hardhome, and we lost the rest of the like background Jon supporters or whatever. But I always felt like there were a good amount of just like background Jon supporters, and I didn't know what their situation was.
It's also worth noting that they have to elect a new Lord Commander now that Jon is dead, so it'll be interesting to see
Jon.
what happens with that.
He'll just be undead John.
Boo.
Serious.
Yeah, that awkward moment when Jon gets reelected.
Boo. So I'm gonna butcher this. We have a question here that says, "Who is Jaqen Hagar?"
Oh, Jaqen.
Jaqen. I was close. I'll take it. And then you have really in italics. So my assumption, and remember, I know pretty much nothing, and I'm also an idiot. So it keeps talking. My assumption is that he's not like a person. He's something sort of else, like a.
The many-faced god?
Yeah, like if they're gonna go that far, but like he's not a dude who put on a face. He's like a next level up in terms of a being. Like if he's not a all-being god sort of thing, he's a step above regular people, sort of like the wizards in Lord of the Rings, if you can understand that reference.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think, Alexa?
I actually didn't think about it until Indy said it, and I was like, maybe he is a many-faced god. That'd be cool. But, I mean, I know there's a theory that he's Syrio Forel, however that's pronounced. So, I'll let you go into that more, because I know what you've told me, so.
I will just tell you that it's a popular theory, but there's zero evidence to support this. That Jaqen Hagar is really, if you'll remember, Syrio Forel, Arya's water dancing teacher from season 1, who when we last saw Syrio, he was taking on like 4 different King's Landing guards, and they just cut away from that scene and showed Arya running away, and then that was the last we saw of Syrio. And we should know by now not to assume that any Game of Thrones character is dead unless we see them die. The one exception is Stannis, because they confirmed that. But but the reason for the theory is that Jaqen appeared almost at exactly the same time Syrio disappeared, quote unquote. And so, they're both teaching Arya. Syrio is Braavosi. It's important to remember that. So there's a chance he could have had training as far as changing faces, like Arya's getting right now. So, it's possible, but again, there's no real evidence. But I think we pretty much got confirmation from that freaky last scene with Arya that Jaqen is not the person that we constantly see on the surface with the white dude long hair. We can safely assume that's not him. I think as far as being a many-faced god, that's a great theory actually. There are theories that a couple of characters could be gods in like a physical form almost, and he does have. We do know he has some kind of special powers. Not unlike the Red Priests who have appeared in the show. So that's certainly possible, but I just kind of like the theory that he is Syrio. Maybe it's just because I like Syrio, and it would be cool to know that he was still there teaching Arya all this time. But, yeah, we have no idea,
I think it'd be really cool if he were the many-faced god, though. I like that theory, too.
He just had this, like, atmosphere about him the whole time he's been in the show that just seemed a little different.
Yeah. I know what you're saying.
So the next sort of question we have here is that after Cersei's sort of public punishment, her shame walk, are her days as a ruler sort of at an end, and how will her trial play out? Uh, so I just have this feeling, and I feel like it, she seems to just get out of most stuff, and the shame walk seemed to be like the first thing, at least that I can really tell over the last however many seasons, that she like just couldn't really get out of. But I expect her to get out of her trial and like be declared innocent or whatever. I just think she's a good manipulator and she's able to do that.
I don't think she'll be declared innocent, mainly because the vast majority of the realm seems to suspect that, even if they don't suspect about their children being born of incest, they seem to suspect that she and Jaime are a couple. Like, a lot of people believed that when Stannis sent out that letter to, pretty much all corners of the realm. But, gosh, I don't know. As far as, the appearance of that zombie version of the mountain, it suggests that she's going to invoke a trial by combat, much like Tyrion did twice before. And so I could see her fate resting on that.
Okay.
And like whether she's innocent or guilty, like we know Tyrion, obviously Oberyn lost his battle with the mountain, even though Tyrion was innocent.
Mm-hmm.
So, obviously the gods do not decide trial by combat. Warriors decide trial by combat in Westeros. So I think Cersei will get out of this, but we saw her uncle, Tywin's brother, there right at the end of Season 5 when she got back to King's Landing. And I could see him kind of taking over in a sort of advisory role. But I just don't see Cersei having any sort of significant ruling power now that she already wasn't liked or respected by the common folk, and now that she's been shamed and humiliated publicly. I don't think you really recover from that. I don't see how she does that unless she just, if she had some dragons, she'd go burn everybody, but she doesn't. So I just don't know what her fate is really.
If she's guilty, quote unquote, what happens to her? Do we know?
I assume. I'm just going to assume she will be found guilty in a trial, but she'll invoke trial by combat just like Tyrion did. So that's, if you invoke trial by combat, it has to be done that way, regardless of guilt or innocence.
So the next question you have is how will the Lannisters deal with Dorne, since, they'll probably guess that Marcella's death was a murder, which I think is totally true. It doesn't seem like there was much of a secret to sort of hide what had gone on. Like, it was very clear, and I feel like they're gonna know who it was and who did it, sort of thing. So I'd have to assume that Jaime's gonna be at least extra pissed off because he sort of had that nice acceptance moment with her right before she died. So I think it will be less. I think, normal Jaime still would have been upset and gone to do something, but I think it's gonna be like a sort of blinded by rage Jaime, just because of what he got right before she died. I think is gonna have probably a bigger impact than you would suspect, just because he's always sort of struck me as that kind of person.
Of course, is he going to try and, take care of something in Dorne first, or is he, presumably he has to go back to King's Landing and at least see how Cersei's trial will play out. So it seems like it's almost going to be on the back burner for a little bit, but at the same time, that would surprise me.
Yeah, I don't know if it's something
Yeah.
that like he like just turns the boat around and wants to go stab everybody, or if it's more sort of a methodical, sort of intentional thing he's trying to do, but just way more extreme and sort of aggressive than what he would typically have done, I
Yeah.
guess.
Almost like you wonder if it'll change his character.
Yeah, I mean, I think it
Mhm.
does. I think he gets angrier and a little more vengeful and all that stuff.
Yeah. No, I mean, I think with Joffrey's death, he really wasn't that bummed because Joffrey was an asshole.
Yeah.
But I think with Myrcella's touching moment right before it, yeah, I could see him going on like a rage spiral.
Yeah.
It's just so weird how they did it very differently with Dorne in the show, because in the book, everyone loved Myrcella. She was accepted as a member of their society, and they tried to crown her. Like, they actually tried to crown her, and they were going to start a war against Cersei and Tommen. And then instead, in the show, you have the Dornish talking about, oh, we don't kill children like you, we're different. And
Mhm.
yet in the end, she ends up dead.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So
So
it
is she
kind of
not
leaves
dead
a
in the
bad
book
taste
yet?
in the mouth.
What'd you
As
say
far as
about?
Is she not dead in the books yet?
nope, she's still alive in the books.
Okay.
Do you think she's gone in the books, or do you think that's a TV show thing?
I think she'll die eventually, just because she's a like the show, she's a bit part character. But the point of incorporating Dorne into the books was also her role growing, and I don't feel like her role really grew that much in the show. It was just
Yeah.
kind of Ilaria getting revenge.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
Ilaria's not even an important character. She's bastard born, and she was Oberyn's like paramour or whatever. So she doesn't
Mhm.
really have a huge purpose aside from just kind of being angry that
Yeah.
Oberyn was killed. So I don't know. The whole Dorne thing just left a bad taste in my mouth, because they didn't portray Dornish culture in any way similar to what I had known it to be, you know?
Mhm.
And it almost seems like you're supposed to feel sorry for the Lannisters now that, oh, evil Dorne killed the
Yeah.
little girl. I hope the
Especially
Lannisters take revenge for that.
yeah, especially in the book
Mhm.
or the show. It's like so much of like you said, sort of the Dornish sort of the what Dorne has been shown to be in the show is basically bad. And like the one quote unquote good guy is in a wheelchair and he's not doing anything really. He's basically saying like we don't do that. Bye.
Exactly.
So as a show watcher only, Dorne does not leave like a positive or even sort of a neutral idea for me. It just seems like they're mostly a negative, bad sort of situation.
Yeah, that's
Mhm.
exactly how I see it, and I don't know. I wish they had approached it differently, but it is what it is.
So, are we going to get more Sand Snakes next season?
Hope not.
Are they going to live up to the hype that was built around them?
I mean, considering what all I know about them, most of their purpose was connected to Myrcella. So
Yeah.
with her dead, I
Yeah.
really couldn't tell you. I kind of, as far as the show, I just kind of hope they fade into the background, because they were just so dull, really.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Um. So the last question we have on here is how will the High Sparrow deal with Marjorie and Loras in their upcoming trials? Um. And I was wondering because we saw a decent bit of her in sort of the jail cell thing a couple times, and we didn't see her for like 3 or 4 episodes or something. I feel like we haven't seen her for a while. So I was wondering,
Mhm.
are they just is that a background thing now, or is it going to come back into be a major thing? I couldn't really tell with the way the show was pacing.
I think I think it'll be connected with Cersei's trial. Like, it'll kind of play out at the same time. But I don't know. It was strange that we didn't see Marjorie for the last like few episodes even.
Yeah.
And as far as Loras, I think I hate the show's portrayal of Loras, but just speaking as for his trial, he is quote unquote guilty because same-sex relations are deemed unlawful by the High Sparrow. So by that logic, he is guilty. So it'll be interesting to see what happens to him if he'll, if they will punish him by death or. I don't see there being like 2 trials by combat. I think that'll just be Cersei. But as far as Marjorie, I don't think there's any evidence against her except that she lied to try and protect Loras. But of course, they caught her perjuring. So I don't know. It depends on how strict the High Sparrow wants to be with that. But I don't know. Marjorie is such a hard character for me to figure out because I don't feel like we see enough of her. But she's in freaking King's Landing. She is Tommen's wife, so I just don't know. But Loras, I think, may be in big trouble, but I don't think Marjorie will be. I think she'll get off okay, but I don't know. What do you guys think?
With those 3 trials, you think that Cersei and Marjorie sort of get off, but Loras loses, is guilty or whatever, and then faces whatever the punishment is.
I would be shocked if Cersei didn't get off because, I mean, Qyburn has been working on this, like, warrior zombie thing, so who alive is even going to challenge that thing? I don't even want to call him a person. So it's hard to see anything other than Cersei getting off at that point, but I don't know. It just depends on whether maybe Marjorie and Cersei will even strike a deal. I don't know. I literally have no clue. So your guess is as good as mine on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it going well for everyone, so.
I had a question in my brain and I lost it. Well, so is there anything that you want to close with, or anything else you want to add in terms of this season or next season or the quote-unquote upcoming book, whenever that may be?
Well, with each passing day, you grow a little more convinced that Season 6 will arrive before a manuscript, but, I don't know. Are there any other theories you guys had as far as what might happen next season?
So I make a very strong point where I don't read any Game of Thrones related things at all ever because I don't want to spoil anything. So I have no theories, no nothing.
Anything
I
with
really do.
her blindness?
I actively avoid any Game of Thrones related stuff because I really don't want to avoid it. As far as her and her blindness, I have no idea. Who knows? When you wear a mask, can you see? Does the mask make you see things? Or is she blind if she puts the mask on?
The point of that scene was that they took away her eyesight. It wasn't about putting on a face. Like she actually is blind.
Okay. So then
that's all I'll say there.
She's just, I don't know. I feel like her whole character is this character of like becoming stronger and better. So I could see her being, a good fighter, a good whatever, despite being blind. Like I wouldn't be shocked if she if she was a Daredevil type character, somebody who had heightened her other senses got better because she lost her sight, sort of thing. Not a superhero level,
yeah,
but
I just think, I think she's going to be able to ward more than, we haven't seen her be able to do that at all in the show, but from my understanding, all the Starks could do so. And I think it's just going to, be hyped up like Bran's was when he lost his ability to walk.
Touching on that, are we getting Bran and Hodor back next season?
I heard
Yes,
that Bran's
we are.
coming back.
So we're going back to whatever he's doing.
Being a tree.
Yeah, last I saw he was in a tree with an old guy or something. I don't remember.
I think he's just being trained with his magical abilities by the children.
Oh yeah, the Magic Children. Man, what a weird show.
Yeah, Bran's storyline got so freaking weird. But yeah, he'll be a tree or something, but he'll be there next season.
Huh. Well, I guess this sort of wraps up our season of podcasts, unless we have any big developments or anything we really want to talk about. We'll definitely hop on and do some one-off episodes. Otherwise, we will be back next season after the first episode.
Hope you guys have enjoyed it, and we'll see you next season.